Right. So before I get into anything else, I want to say that this first story is one of those ones where I kept reading, expecting the drama to peak, and then it just kept going. Multiple updates over nearly a year. A golden child brother who is genuinely something else. A mom who eventually wakes up. A sister who built a beautiful life 400 miles away and never looked back. And a wedding that the people who deserved to attend actually got to enjoy. So we are starting here because honestly, nothing else in today's batch comes close. This one is called, Am I the Asshole for Telling My Parents They Deserved to Be Kicked Out of My Sister's Wedding? So the person posting this, who I will call Sarah, is 37. Her brother Mike is 35. Her sister Kelly is 31. And Mike has been the golden child of this family for as long as anyone can remember. Not because he is particularly good or kind or admirable, but because when he was younger, he showed promise in rugby. Their parents decided he was going to be a superstar. He was not. He never had the work ethic to fulfill whatever potential he had, but the label of special had already been attached, and it never came off. What this meant in practice was that Mike could do essentially whatever he wanted with no real consequences. At school, he was a bully. Their parents dismissed every complaint as other kids making things up about him. But at home, where there were no teachers or outside witnesses, he was something worse. He bullied Kelly specifically, relentlessly, in the way that youngest siblings sometimes become targets when the family hierarchy has already decided who matters most. He called it pranking. Their parents called it siblings being siblings. The extended family, whenever they witnessed it, were horrified. One specific incident stands out. At a family wedding, when Kelly was 15 years old, Mike pulled her dress up in front of the entire family. 15. At a wedding. In front of everyone, and his parents looked away. Sarah was around to defend Kelly when she could, and it helped to some extent. But then Sarah went away to university, and there was nothing she could do from a distance, with parents who refused to hear any criticism of their son. And Kelly made a decision. Kelly had talked since she was 11 years old about going to St. Andrews for university. It was her dream. She had been working toward it for years. And when the time came, she chose Imperial College London instead, 400 miles away, because St. Andrews was too close to home. She would have been expected to visit regularly. London meant she only had to go home at Christmas. She was 18 years old, and she was already engineering her escape. After graduating, she did not move back. She got a job in southern England and stayed. Their parents said she was abandoning the family. Sarah kept her mouth shut and let them complain, because she understood exactly why Kelly was staying gone. 6 years ago, Kelly met someone named Jake. The day she met him, she called Sarah, and Sarah says she had never heard her sister sound like that about anyone before. She was gushing. She was lit up. And when Sarah eventually met Jake in person, he turned out to be everything Kelly had described. Good-looking, funny, great job, lovely family, and most importantly, he treats Kelly like she hung the moon. Sarah uses that phrase, and I think it is the right one for what she is describing. Kelly's first Christmas home with Jake went smoothly until it did not. Mike, being unable to command the attention of the room because everyone was more interested in getting to know Jake, decided to fall back on his usual playbook. He got a large bowl of water with the intention of pouring it over Kelly. Jake saw what was happening and stepped in front of her. Jake is 6'3" and has been practicing martial arts since he was 4 years old. He told Mike, very clearly, not to even think about it. Mike whined about it being a harmless prank. Jake told him that if he pranked Kelly one more time, Mike would find out what it felt like to have a foot put somewhere uncomfortable and a fist somewhere worse. Their parents tried to smooth it over. Jake was not interested in being smoothed. Kelly and Jake left about an hour later, and after that, Mike, their mom, and their dad all had a problem with Jake. Kelly has not been back home since that Christmas. Now Kelly and Jake are getting married. They sent invitations in February for an August wedding. Mike was not invited. Their parents erupted. They threatened not to come, and Kelly told them that was fine. Her grandfather would walk her down the aisle instead. Which is such a perfect response that I want to just let it sit for a moment. Sarah goes to visit her parents one Saturday with her kids, and her mom immediately starts venting about the wedding situation. Sarah listens for a while, and then reaches the end of her patience. She asks her mom what exactly she expected. She lays it all out. Mike cannot keep a relationship because he thinks everyone should do everything for him. He cannot keep a job because every job is beneath him. He is still living at home in his mid-30s with no prospects. He is a bully who Sarah does not trust around her own children unsupervised. He made Kelly's teenage years so miserable that her escape plan was moving 400 miles away and only coming home for Christmas. Her mom goes very quiet and asks her to leave. Her dad calls a few hours later, furious, accusing Sarah of taking the side of an ungrateful little girl over her own parents. Sarah tells him he was a bad father to Kelly and does not deserve to walk her down the aisle. The extended family starts telling Sarah she has gone too far. Her grandmother, who is elderly and hates conflict, is upset by the fighting. But her grandfather tells Sarah it was about time someone said it. The first update arrives 3 days later. Sarah goes back to her parents with a specific purpose. She tells them Kelly does not want them at the wedding at all, and they should stay away and respect that. They say they will not go where they are not wanted. Then she tells them she needs space until after the wedding. Her mom immediately pivots to worrying about the grandchildren. And this is where Sarah reveals something that had been quietly bothering her in the background. Her son does not like going to their house, not just because it is boring, but because their dad keeps pressuring him to play rugby. Sarah had been told about this before and shut it down, but she had not realized how much it was affecting her son. He is a Pokemon kid. He plays in a tournament at his local card shop every Thursday evening. Rugby is not going to happen. Sarah makes clear to her dad that if she hears him mention rugby around her son again, he will not see her son. Full stop. She also asks her parents what their long-term plan is for Mike. Are they going to keep running his life until they are 90? What happens when they are gone? Mike is incapable. Kelly lives in southern England. Sarah is planning to move to her husband's hometown 3 hours away once her kids are older. Neither of them is going to be available to step in and manage a man in his 40s who never learned to do anything for himself. They stare at her blankly. She does not think they have ever once considered any of this. She also mentions she knows they are planning to leave everything to Mike in their will, and she points out that with how thoroughly they have enabled him, he will have spent through all of it inside a year. She can see panic cross her mom's face. Either she had not thought about this, or she had quietly assumed Sarah would bail Mike out afterward. Now she knows that is not going to happen. Sarah leaves. She sends a text to the extended family members who had been criticizing her for going too far. She says if they are so concerned about her mom, they are welcome to be her support system and deal with Mike the same way Kelly and Sarah have had to for years. None of them take her up on it. Then the wedding update arrives, nearly 3 months later, and it is brief and clean. Kelly got married. Everything went perfectly. Their parents and Mike did not even try to attend. Their mom had tried to reach out to Kelly through other family members in the weeks beforehand, and Kelly handled every single attempt the same way. She did not respond, and she told the family members that if they kept passing messages, they would lose their own invitations. That ended it. Mike, per a cousin who still has contact with him, is still a drain on society. Sarah has not been in contact with him at all. She has spoken to her parents once since the last post, and nothing has changed, so she does not have the energy for more than that. She ends that update by saying the big positive that came out of all of it is that she and Kelly are talking much more than they used to. 400 miles apart, and finally closer than they have been in years. But then there is one more update, 3 months after that. And this one has a shift in it that I did not see coming. Sarah's son's birthday comes around. Her mom reaches out saying she has presents. Sarah is wary because in the past, every gift has been rugby related, but her mom promises they are not this time and asks if she can come and give them in person. The presents her mom has for him are an entire set of Asian Pokemon cards.
A friend of hers had gone to Seoul in October, and her mom had specifically asked her to bring back Pokemon packs if she could find any. Her mom had also gone to the local card shop and asked the staff what to get him, and had tracked down a Pokemon backpack, a teddy, and a Funko Pop of his favorite Pokemon. Sarah's son, who reportedly is easy to win over, is completely ecstatic.
Sarah agrees to meet her mom for lunch a few days later, and what comes out of that lunch is this. Her mom and dad have been fighting constantly because of Mike. Her mom has put her foot down. Mike needs to get a job and keep it, and she is not giving him money anymore. Her dad is defending Mike and saying he just needs more time to find himself. And so her mom has gone on what she calls a strike. She is not cooking for Mike or her dad. She is not doing their washing. She is not ironing. She is doing none of it. Not ironing. She is doing none of it. Sarah is shocked, but cautiously pleased. She is wary because her mom could slip back into old patterns, and her dad still has his head completely buried. But she calls this a little bit of progress and says she is speaking to her mom regularly again. And then the final update, which arrives in March 2026. And by this point, Sarah has some news of her own. She found out in early January that she is 4 months pregnant. A surprise. She and her husband are expecting a boy. Kelly is over the moon about being an aunt again. Her mom spent Christmas at her sister's place because she needed a break from Mike and their dad, who went to their own parents for the holiday. Her mom has genuinely turned a corner. She is coming around to Sarah's house 3 or 4 times a week to cook, which Sarah and her husband are fully on board with because her mom is an excellent cook. She is making real effort with Sarah's son and daughter. She is attempting to learn Pokemon from Sarah's son, which Sarah describes as arguably the funniest thing she has ever witnessed. Her daughter also unable to stop laughing. She's been taking Sarah's daughter to the cinema because that is her daughter's favorite thing. She wrote Kelly a letter apologizing for everything. They had a long phone call in January. Kelly has moved from no contact with her mom to low contact, which is more than either of them thought would happen. But their dad is still entirely enabling Mike. Mike has not changed at all. Their parents are now fighting so much that their mom has moved into the old room that Sarah and Kelly grew up in. She is still on strike. She is barely participating in household life at all. Nobody knows what happens to the marriage from here. Sarah ends the update saying she does not know what the future holds for her parents, but she is glad her mom seems to have turned a corner. She has a room available at her aunt's place, 5 minutes away from Sarah, if she ever decides she is ready to leave. And her auntie lives alone and would probably love the company. The thing about this whole story that I keep coming back to is Kelly. Kelly, who as an 18-year-old deliberately chose a university 400 miles from home because she knew that was the only way she could build a life without being pulled back into that dynamic. Kelly, who met Jake, and Jake is the kind of man who steps in front of his partner when someone tries to pour water on her. Kelly, who when told her parents might not come to her wedding, said, "Fine, Granddad will walk me down the aisle." Kelly, who has gone from no contact with her mom to low contact, and is apparently handling it with maturity. She built herself a genuinely good life. And the people who made her teenage years small enough that she had to flee the country to escape them did not get to stand in the front row of her wedding. Okay, this next one is going to require a small moment of acknowledgement before we begin, because it gets heavy in a very specific way, and I want to handle it carefully. This one is called, "I broke up with my girlfriend after she proposed." Opening up our relationship, and now everyone is telling me to get back with her. So the person posting, who I will call Sam, is 20 years old. His girlfriend, who he has been with for almost 2 years, is 21. They have known each other their whole lives. Their parents were college friends who decided to live near each other. So Sam and his girlfriend grew up seeing each other almost every day, including weekends. Their parents had been quietly playing matchmaker for years. Sam asked her out in high school, and by his own account, he was genuinely happy with her. They even took a gap year together and traveled. When Sam started university, he moved into campus accommodation because the commute from home was 2 hours each way, and he did not want to wake up at 5 in the morning for an 8 a.m. class. His girlfriend stayed at home because she went to a local college that was a 10-minute drive from their neighborhood. He tried to visit every weekend when he was not buried in coursework. 2 weeks before this post, he was visiting, and she seemed off. He could tell she was working up to saying something, the way you can tell when someone has been rehearsing a conversation in their head. Eventually, she told him. She wanted an open relationship. Sam's response to this was immediate and visceral. He is not someone who would ever be comfortable in an open relationship. Intimacy, for him, is something that belongs to the two of them. He sat there, absorbing the shock of it, and then asked her if she had someone specific in mind. She got nervous, then admitted she did have someone in mind. Sam lost his temper. He shouted at her, called her unfaithful, grabbed his jacket, and started to leave. She was crying and asking him not to go angry, to at least talk it through. He left anyway. Made the 4-hour night train journey back to campus because the day trains run less frequently after dark. By the following morning, his anger was still at its highest point, and when his mom called, he said some things about his girlfriend over the phone that he acknowledges were not okay, and that his mom reasonably called him out for. He broke up with her. He is certain this is the right decision for him. But now, both his parents are calling him constantly. His dad, who is usually the last person to get involved in these things, called him specifically to tell him to at least hear her out. His dad mentioned she was not eating and was skipping classes. Sam thinks this is probably her parents passing information through his parents as a guilt trip. He is conflicted specifically because his dad almost never weighs in on personal matters like this. He posts asking whether he should hear her out or whether listening to his dad will just make things worse. The comments are largely supportive of his decision. His right to not want an open relationship is not in question. Several people point out that having someone specific already in mind is a significant detail, because that is the difference between a general desire to explore and a specific person she has been thinking about while in a committed relationship with Sam. He responds to comments still clearly very angry, calling her degree useless in one exchange, saying if she was unhappy with the long-distance arrangement, she should have broken up with him honestly, rather than asking him to accept something he fundamentally does not want. And then 4 days later, the update arrives, and the tone has completely changed. Sam's mom calls him crying in the morning, multiple calls back to back. His girlfriend has attempted to take her own life. He does not fully remember the conversation. He spent what he says was around 800 to 900 euros on a taxi to get home immediately because he could not think straight enough to navigate public transport. He ends up at the hospital. He is slapped by his girlfriend's mother when he arrives. He is angry and scared, and the adrenaline is making it hard for him to process anything clearly. He screams at someone. He does not fully remember all of it. His dad is with him. They go home. They drink beer together. Sam writes the update that night, by his own admission, a bit tipsy and clearly in shock.
He says he loves his dad and does not know what he would have done without him there. Now, there are a few things worth naming carefully here. Sam did not cause what happened. He made a reasonable decision about his own relationship based on something that for him was a genuine deal breaker. Breaking up with someone is not a harm, even when the timing is painful, and even when the grief of it is real. What his girlfriend chose to do with that pain was not his responsibility to prevent, and it is not his fault that it happened. What he is carrying, though, is something he will have to sit with for a long time, regardless of any of that. He got on a train angry. He said things he regrets. He left her crying. He never went back to have the conversation she asked for. And he will spend time wondering whether any of those specific choices changed the specific outcome, even while knowing intellectually that the answer is no. He ends the update by wondering if none of it would have happened if he had not told his dad what was going on in the first place. He is trying to process something that does not have clean edges or easy answers. He is 20 years old and sitting in his childhood bedroom drinking beer with his father,
and his whole chest is probably full of things he does not have words for yet. He says, "Why me? Why couldn't she just be normal? Why does this happen to me?" And I think that as a 20-year-old trying to survive a situation he did not ask for and does not know how to hold. Moving on to something with a gentler ending, and this one I think is genuinely worth your time all the way through. This one is called, "My Boyfriend Will Only Marry Me to Make Me Happy. Should I End Things?" So the person posting this, who I will call Maya, is 33, first has been with her boyfriend Cole, also 33, for 5 years. They knew each other briefly in high school, lost touch, reconnected through social media in their 20s, and started dating properly after Maya moved back to her home state. Their relationship went through real difficulty early on. Maya lost both her parents within 3 years of each other, and Cole was present and supportive throughout. But they also broke up during the pandemic because Cole would not commit to moving in together. He would not come to her place. She was the one making the 1-hour drive to his every weekend. The cost of gas and wear on her car was adding up. And whenever she tried to have a serious conversation about their future, he would joke or change the subject. They were apart for 9 months. When they got back together, things genuinely changed. Cole opened up about what had been holding him back, and they made real progress. They moved in together, and lived that way for 4 years. When they first moved in, Maya had told Cole she did not think they needed to get married. She was happy as they were. But over the following year, her thinking shifted. She realized she wanted the legal and emotional weight of marriage. She wants to spend the rest of her life with this person, and she does not want any legal complications to get in the way of that down the road. She makes clear to Cole that she is not asking for a big wedding. She is happy with a courthouse. She just wants to be married. Cole regresses immediately into his old pattern. When pressed seriously, he says, "Oh yeah," or "We will see." Eventually, when Maya pushes him to just give her a yes or no, he admits it. Marriage does not mean to him what it means to her. He would marry her to make her happy, but his actual preference is to offer her power of attorney to cover her practical concerns rather than getting legally married. Maya says something that I think is exactly right. "If you are not excited to marry me, then we are not getting married." She ends the conversation because she is exhausted from going in circles. She writes to Reddit asking whether she should end things. The responses are largely consistent. If he wanted to, he would. He does not. You deserve someone who is as excited about this as you are. But Maya does not just leave. She has an honest and difficult conversation with Cole that evening, one she has clearly been preparing for. She tells him what marriage means to her, how it is the natural conclusion of a committed relationship in her eyes, how she changed her mind and she wishes she had been clearer about that sooner, how she wants to be someone's wife, married to someone who is as excited as she is, how she does not want to be his girlfriend for the rest of her life. She also tells him that if this is truly not what he wants, that is okay. But if that is where he stands, they need to end things. Cole listens. He actually listens. He admits he does not know why he has this hang-up around marriage. He cannot explain it when she asks him directly why. If he loves her and wants to spend his life with her, he cannot commit to it. He says he does not have an answer. She tells him to take time and think it over. She will wait, but she will not continue the relationship if marriage is not something he genuinely wants. And then, nothing is heard for a year and a half. Until the second update. Cole and Maya went to couples counseling. They had fights, they went in circles, and then the counseling started to work. Cole opened up in ways he had not been able to manage on his own. Things about his past and the way it had shaped how he thought about commitment. He had been hurt badly, and somewhere in the part of him that had processed all of that was a belief that marriage does not happen for people like him, that he would be abandoned, that expecting permanence would only make the loss worse when it inevitably came. And when someone actually wanted to marry him, genuinely, without pressure or ultimatum, He did not know how to handle it. He gets it now. They proposed to each other. Maya proposed first, because she wanted to, and he says it was perfect. Then he proposed to her. They are eloping in May. He has been calling her his wife to everyone who will listen. He shows off their rings. The comment section has some people who suggest this is not a great sign, that Maya has always been the one chasing Cole, and that she should have held out for someone more obviously enthusiastic. Maya pushes back gently. He deserved to be proposed to, too. The fact that she went first does not change the fact that he also wanted to propose to her. And I think she is right. This is a story about two people who both came from difficult backgrounds around love and marriage. A woman who watched her parents' marriage and wanted to prove to herself that it was possible to have something different. And a man who had been hurt enough times to stop believing it was available to him, finally finding their way to the same place. It did not come easily. It required honesty and patience and professional help and multiple hard conversations. But they got there. Okay, this next one has been sitting in my draft folder for a while because I found the original post and the follow-ups genuinely moving in a quiet way. This one is called, "My Husband is Awesome, but Not to Our Children." This was originally posted in 2011, and the follow-ups span about 3 months, which in Reddit time is a complete arc. So the woman posting this, who I will call Claire, has been married for 5 years and has 3 young children. She describes her husband as funny, smart, someone who makes her laugh even when she does not want to, someone she loves genuinely and deeply. They play video games together and stay up talking for hours about interesting things. He is a great provider. He is a good husband. But with the children, he is a different person entirely. He speaks to them in sarcasm they are too young to understand. When one of the children says, "Daddy, look at my picture," he says, "No." When they try to start a sentence with, "Dad, can I?" he cuts them off and says, "Nothing you have to say is important." He gets in their faces and yells at them for things that a calm explanation would resolve. The children come to Claire for everything, because their father is someone they do not know how to approach. She is afraid, she writes, that they might fear him. Then she corrects herself. She knows they do, which is why they do not like being around him. She asks Reddit how to get his awesomeness into his parenting. The response she gets is not gentle. Someone writes a detailed account of what it is like to grow up with a father exactly like the one Claire has described. They say the children will become private and reserved. They will go through extraordinary lengths to keep their parents in the dark about their lives. They will learn to hide their emotions as their greatest defense. They will not laugh in front of him, because that will feel like weakness. They will be afraid of love and relationships, because they will feel worthless, and because showing emotions has always been met with mockery. They will probably not talk to him of their own free will once they leave home. The person writing this is describing their own father and their own childhood. This comment, and others like it, land hard enough that Claire updates the post directly. Her husband is not so awesome anymore. He's an abusive jerk. She is thinking about showing him the post. She would go to Taco Bell and make tacos, if she had to get the money for therapy. 4 days later, she updates. She had a blazing argument with her husband after another incident. One bad enough that she said something she was not proud of, but meant. She told him he is a bully who uses his power against his own children, and that the only reason he does not talk to adults the way he talks to them is because an adult would respond in kind. He left the house for 2 hours, did not speak to her for 2 days. When she confronted him again, he said he had nothing to say to her because she believed he took pleasure in disciplining his children. She told him that was not the point. It was not just the discipline, it was how he treated them in general. She showed him the Reddit post. He told her before reading it that people on Reddit would agree with him because they were just as awesome as he was. Then he read it. He sat with his head in his hands for a long time. The next day, he took all 3 kids to see Happy Feet 2, something he would never normally do. Not just taking them somewhere, but taking them to a film about dancing, singing penguins. The kids were thrilled. It was the first time he had taken them anywhere on his own. That night they talked. He admitted he had no idea he was being a jerk. He genuinely believed he was just being funny, and that no harm was being done. He agreed, reluctantly, to look for a therapist. 3 months later, Claire updates again. He has gotten better. He still relapses. She had hoped he would change overnight, because they are talking about his children's well-being, and that turned out to be an unrealistic expectation. It is taking time and constant support. They have had trouble finding the right therapist, because talking about his emotions is not something that comes naturally to him. But they are not giving up. What has worked, she says, is that he goes back and reads the Reddit comments regularly, particularly the ones from people who were raised by fathers like him. Not the advice, not her words to him, the stories from people who lived through it and described what it did to them. He keeps the printout folded in his wallet, and she has seen him reading it quietly on his own. She has also learned things about him she had not fully known before. He grew up never feeling protected. His emotions were never validated. He was bullied by classmates and by his own siblings. His parents never modeled what it looked like to be kind to children. He learned to deflect with humor and sarcasm because that was how people in his world treated each other, and he carried it into fatherhood without registering what he was doing. She quotes the comment from the person who described growing up with a father like his, the one about children becoming private and reserved and frightened of love, and she thanks that person directly. She says they helped both of them. There is something about a man keeping a Reddit printout in his wallet so he can remind himself not to hurt his children that I find genuinely moving. It is not a perfect redemption arc. He still relapses. It is ongoing work. But he is doing the work, and that is not nothing. Now this next one has a satisfying ending, and I want to take my time with it because it earned that ending. This one is called, "Am I the asshole for not inviting my family to my wedding because of something I overheard them say?" So the person posting this, who I will call Rosa, has a family that is large and conservative and has very clear ideas about how women should be. Her mom is one of 14 children. They immigrated to the United States when her mom was a child. Their community and religion were deeply traditional, to the point that most of her aunts and uncles only married people from the same country or the same church. In Rosa's generation of the family, there are only 2 girls, Rosa and her cousin Marie. When they were young, they were both cherished, doted on like princesses by the whole extended family. As they got older, a distinction started to emerge. Marie was tall and slender, with lighter hair and eyes and skin. She was a gifted dancer. She was devoted to the family's religion. She was the golden child. Rosa had a harder time. She was more stubborn, less conventionally beautiful by her family's standards, and she found her own path in an unexpected direction. She got into singing classes, made friends outside the family in the church, and through those friends discovered the local punk and hardcore scene. For the first time in her life, she was in a community that was not constantly judging her. She started dressing differently. She got facial piercings and tattoos. She felt like herself. Her uncle stopped allowing Marie to spend time with her. He associated Rosa's appearance with drugs, alcohol, atheism, and communism. All the scary things. Rosa was sad to lose the closeness with her cousin, but there was nothing she could do about it. Both of them, separated by years and by different paths, ended up in abusive marriages. No one in their family had ever divorced before. Marie came forward first and told the family about the abuse and her decision to divorce. The family rallied around her with warmth and support and joy at seeing her escape. Rosa also eventually left her husband and began talking about the abuse she had been through. Her mom had a weekly video call with her siblings. One week, Rosa's mom mentioned that Marie had announced she was seeing someone new and had gotten engaged. Rosa wanted to give Marie her moment.
She waited a few months before going to her mom and sharing her own news. She had also met someone. She was happy. Her mom told her to keep it quiet, not to tell the family, because they might think she had deserved what happened to her. Rosa heard what her mom was saying. Because of how Rosa looked, because she had left the church, because she had tattoos and piercings, because she did not fit the family's model of a good woman, they might decide that her ex-husband had been justified. Rosa stayed quiet and tried to process this. Then one day, she overheard her mom on the video call with her siblings. They were talking about her. They were saying that her alternative lifestyle had brought her to that point, that her piercings and tattoos and departure from the church had made her inappropriately masculine.
That she had not been submissive enough. That what her ex-husband did to her was essentially God's punishment. Her mom said nothing to contradict any of it. Rosa describes trying to find words for how much that hurt, and not being able to. Now, she and her partner are engaged, and they are planning their wedding. She does not want her family there. Her mom is angry, and says Rosa needs to forgive and give them another chance. Rosa tells her that people who believed she deserved to be abused while being ecstatic about Marie's happiness are not people she wants at her wedding. She asks the internet whether she should be the bigger person. The internet says no. She is not the asshole. They did not apologize. They probably will not. Being the bigger person does not require you to celebrate your wedding in front of people who decided you had it coming. But the real update, the one that matters, comes a few weeks later. Rosa and her partner eloped. They found a little resort town a few states away. They brought a handful of friends and some of her partner's family. They had a small courthouse ceremony and then spent the rest of the time just being together and happy. She describes it as perfect. It felt genuinely good to share the moment with found family, rather than making it about performance for people who had already shown her who they were. She had also been quietly moving her things out of her parents' house in the weeks leading up to it. She is planning on going no contact, at least for now. She left her contact information with a trusted family friend in case of a genuine emergency, so that she can choose whether to be available if something serious happens. She adds some context at the end that explains why she was still at her parents' house at all. She had needed somewhere to go when she left her ex-husband, and the pandemic was beginning, and her industry was badly affected by the lockdowns and never fully recovered. She stayed partly because of finances, and partly because her grandmother became ill, and Rosa spent time caring for her, sitting with her in between the home health team's visits. Her grandmother, she says, was not the nicest person. But she had survived a war-torn country and witnessed a genocide, and had grown up in an era where mental health care was deeply stigmatized. Rosa says she never blamed her for the way she was. She knew her grandmother regretted things. She was a dying old woman who wanted her family to get along. The rest of the family was only cordial to Rosa during that period, she says, because they did not want to cause her grandmother extra stress in her final days by being cruel in front of her. She is grateful they did that for her grandmother, even given everything else. And then she says something I think deserves to be the last word on this story. When you grow up a certain way, it is hard to remember that some things that seem normal to you are not normal to everyone else. She went somewhere that felt like home. All right, the next few stories are lighter in tone, and I want to give them proper time because they are worth it. This one is called Neighbors Keep Using Our Property, Not Sure What to Do. So the person posting this, who I will call Jess, has a property shaped like an L, the main house at the back, and an extra lot off the side that she and her husband are planning to eventually build a garage on. The issue is the side lot and their new neighbors who moved in next door last year. The neighbor's driveway runs right along the property line. There is a fence, then an opening to their shed. To get from their driveway to the shed, the straightforward route runs across Jess's property. There is technically a longer way around the house, but apparently nobody was using it. The neighbors started mowing a strip about 3 feet into Jess's property. Her husband knocked on their door, explained where the property line was,
said he would handle the mowing on their side. The neighbors offered to take turns mowing. He said no. It is their property. They will handle it. The neighbors then asked if people could park on the side lot for a party they were having. He said no. Since then, they have continued mowing the strip, which Jess and her husband eventually decided to let go. But then came the garbage cans. Every bin day, the neighbors put their cans on Jess's property. Her husband moves them back every time. Every week, they reappear. Then winter arrives, and things escalate significantly. The neighbors start plowing their driveway snow directly into Jess's yard, tearing up the grass as if they are trying to expand their own parking space. People visit on snowmobiles and ride them straight through the yard. The neighbors have 3 cars, but their driveway fits 2, so the overflow regularly parks in Jess's yard, and so do visitors. Her husband speaks to them again. They say, "Oh, sorry," and keep doing it. Jess writes the original post asking for advice. She does not want to install another fence. She had just finished paying for one in the backyard and does not want to spend more money and time on another. She is not sure what her options are. In the comments, she learns her neighbors have been mowing into her property, parking in it, riding snowmobiles through it. All of this while also having a shed that sits right on the property line, which the previous owner of the neighboring house installed, potentially illegally. Jess contacts the city zoning department and starts getting quotes for surveys. Then she talks to her other neighbor, the elderly woman behind the backyard. She describes this woman as a very nice, spicy elderly woman, and she loves her. It turns out this woman had a copy of a professional survey of the property done years earlier. She also tells Jess something important. The previous owner of the neighboring house had ripped out the iron survey monuments that mark the official property line, right in front of her, and said he did not care. So Jess and her husband measure using the remaining monuments on the other side of the property as reference points. The property line runs right to the fence and the shed. The neighbor's driveway is actually a few inches into their yard, though since it is gravel, it may have shifted over time. Garbage day comes, and the neighbors walk all the way around the snow stakes that Jess and her husband have placed to block the driveway plowing, and put their cans in Jess's yard anyway. Her husband comes home from work and goes straight over. Turns out, the woman who answered was just a house sitter. The actual residents were on vacation. When they come back, the husband comes out, while Jess's husband is mulching leaves in the side lot to confront him about the snow stakes. There is yelling. Jess can hear it from inside, but stays in the house with the kids. Her husband comes in afterward and says they will not be crossing onto the property anymore. And then the detail that clarifies everything. It turns out the fence next to the shed has a panel that is actually a gate that goes directly to the shed from their own property. There has been a way for the neighbors to access their shed without crossing into Jess's yard the entire time. Nobody was using it. They were going through her yard out of habit, or laziness, or just because they could. The update arrives 5 weeks later, and it is satisfying in a quiet way. The neighbors are staying on their side. The snow stakes did their job through the big storms. The yard looks better. The garbage cans are no longer appearing in the wrong place. The zoning officer did come out to assess the shed situation. The bad news is that because the property is zoned mixed use, there are no setback requirements. So, the shed is legally allowed to be exactly where it is, regardless of where it sits relative to the property line. It is there to stay. But the neighbors are behaving, and for now, that is enough. And the last story today, and this one is about a 19-year-old who is figuring something out in real time, and I think a lot of people will recognize something of themselves in it. This one is called, "Am I the asshole for telling my boyfriend not to come over anymore if he does not move in with me?" So the person posting this, who I will call Zoe, is 19. Her boyfriend, also 19, has been with her for almost 2 years. She moved into her own one-bedroom apartment 6 months ago. She pays all her bills, she buys all her own groceries.
She lives alone and manages it on her own income. Her boyfriend comes over every single day. Not occasionally, not most days, literally every day. She gets home from work, showers, and by the time she is out, he is at her door. She was initially happy about this because before he moved in, he had said spending too much time with her felt overwhelming. So having him want to be there every day felt like progress. But things have started adding up in a way she could not ignore. Her utility bill went up by $70 last month. He has been at her apartment even when she is not home, taking showers, watching television, leaving lights on. He uses the bathroom multiple times every visit. She buys a 12-pack of soda every 2 weeks designed to last her the full month, and it is gone in 2 weeks. She gives a specific example of watching him open one soda, finish it, go back for a second, finish that, and then get up to go for a third. She stops him. He looks at her with a clenched jaw and does not speak to her for a while after. This is apparently how he responds when he feels called out. She confronts the real issue. He is essentially living at her apartment without being on the bills, without contributing financially, without having any skin in the game. So she asks him directly, "Why do not you move in with me?" He says he does not want to. His reasons come out one by one. First, he says he wants to finish school. He is not in school. He missed the enrollment deadline. Second, he says he wants to live in a house, not an apartment. They are 19. A house is not realistic right now. She makes this point. He accepts it and moves to his third reason. "I just do not want to move out. I like having no responsibilities." She tells him that if he will not move in and contribute, then he cannot come over every day, and they will need to spend more time at his place. He agrees in the moment, and then continues showing up every single day as if the conversation never happened. In the comments, more comes out. He has a key to her apartment. He got it by suggesting he should have one in case she got locked out. He has used it to be there when she is not. His mom pays for his car, his gas, and his clothes. He has accused her of cheating before when she said she wanted a night with a friend. She ended up showing him security camera footage of her female friend arriving at the apartment to prove she was not lying. Reading the comments is changing how she sees things in real time. She was at a low point in her life at 17. Her parents had relapsed. She had moved in with her older sister, and this boyfriend messaged her and offered a lot of support and companionship. She fell in love with someone who helped her through a hard time. And now, 2 years later, she is in her own apartment, working and building something, and he is eating her groceries and watching her television and accusing her of cheating when she asks for a night to herself. She says she loves him, and it is hard to let that go. But she also says she thinks it has run its course, and she is going to try to have the conversation that evening. The update arrives the next day. She took the key. She told him that until he learns to call ahead and ask if he can come over, he cannot have it, and that it should only be used for genuine emergencies in any case. He responded by explaining, reasonably, and for the first time actually clearly, that they are in different places. She has an apartment, income, and responsibilities. He has none of those things yet. He lives at home, with no bills and no pressure to change. And then, instead of taking any ownership of that, he started suggesting she should not have moved out, that it was too expensive, that she should budget better. She is 19 years old and had to leave her family home because her parents relapsed. She did not choose to move out on a whim. She moved out because she had to. They argued back and forth, and eventually she told him what she had worked out. He is not ready to grow up right now, and she does not want that around her. She does not know if they are broken up exactly. She says she will know more tomorrow. What she does know is that the comments helped her see things she had not been able to see clearly while she was inside it. She says thank you to the strangers who helped her, and she means it. There is something genuinely relatable about the way this story moves. She is not naive. She is not oblivious. She is someone who was vulnerable at a specific moment in her life, and someone showed up for her then, and she has been trying to hold on to that version of him ever since. But he has had his groceries eaten, and his television watched, and his utilities used while she clocked into work and paid her bills and figured out how to build a life. And she is the one who finally said, enough. She is 19. She has her whole life to figure out what she actually wants from a relationship. And I think she is going to be absolutely fine. And that is going to be everything for today. Drop a comment on whichever one hit you hardest. I will be reading every single one. See you in the next one.